Hi, this is Keith here with video number 13 of the How the Government Should Work series. Today I'm talking about manufacturing jobs, and first thing I thought I'd do is try to explain why manufacturing jobs are important. Simple reasons: they historically provide mid-range income opportunities, they don't require a lot of education, and so historically they've been jobs that people can get a high school education, maybe a little bit of additional on-the-job training, and do. And they maintain manufacturing capabilities within the U.S. for potential future national emergencies. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The latest great example of that is PPE equipment. When we needed to have PPE equipment, we found out it was all being made in China, and that created a problem for us. Those are the kind of things that a good manufacturing plan would help avoid. The simple thing is, if capitalism worked perfectly, this would be a non-issue. Perfect capitalism operated everywhere equally, you wouldn't need to try to protect manufacturing jobs in the U.S. But many countries don't have minimum wage laws or adequate worker protection laws, so our workers can't compete fairly. Some countries steal intellectual property, or countries can't compete fairly. Some countries subsidize or even own their manufacturing production, don't need to make a profit. Again, competition issues. And workers, even in the U.S., often don't have the ability to negotiate wages, which means that you can't let capitalism in a pure form just work its will. And the U.S. wants to maintain a minimum standard of living for all workers. We're not willing to let necessarily wages just equalize across the world, given where wages are across the world. And U.S. corporations don't have a balanced interest. They're driven by profit and market share, and they don't necessarily have the national security needs of the U.S. in mind. Therefore, they don't necessarily manufacture where it would be good for, the U.S. in a patriotic sense. So capitalism in a pure sense doesn't work. Anyone who tells you let the free market do its will, I would say find me a free market, and then I'll let that happen. Just some graphs. This is U.S. manufacturing output. It's a percent change of U.S. manufacturing output by month, by year. This is going all the way back to the 1920s. You can see that the decreasing percent changes over time, things are kind of like stabilizing out to very small changes, is because it's reduced new innovative businesses in manufacturing. You don't get sharp increases in manufacturing because some new industry like Henry Ford's assembly line, or making airplanes on a large production scale where you didn't before. We don't have the big innovative changes in manufacturing that we used to have, and that's why you see this chart look the way it does. This is just the latest jobs numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You can see that jobs have been rising since about 2008, except for the latest dip we just went through. We'll see how that works out over time. This is manufacturing jobs, and I get this from the Federal Reserve of St. Louis. They do amazing statistics. I don't know why, but the Federal Reserve of St. Louis does amazing stuff. This is manufacturing jobs. It's in thousands, so you can just read this as 20 million to 10 million is kind of the scale here. You can see the manufacturing jobs up and down due to the economy, but generally up till about 1980, and then they've been down ever since. And if you remember from some of my previous videos, 1980 is kind of a turning point for a lot of reasons. We changed our tax policies drastically around 1980. We started allowing money in politics due to some court decisions, Buckley versus Vallejo in 1976. So pay for play, money in politics started becoming a bigger deal after 1980. A lot of things started happening around 1980. Debt and deficit started increasing. And coincidentally enough, manufacturing jobs have been going down ever since. If you look at manufacturing jobs as a percentage of total jobs, this only goes back to about 2000. You can see it was 12% of total jobs in 2000. It's down to about 8% now. We've lost about a third of manufacturing jobs as a total percentage of the jobs in the country since 2000. And people wonder why the country seems to be experiencing some pains. I told you before, remember where manufacturing fits into the overall agenda. The things that I need to convince the people of, one of them is to have the correct priorities, make the average citizen's interest first priority. That's where this fits in. And then what are the policy initiatives? No executive orders. It's a little bit easier in trade and manufacturing because Congress has delegated trade authority to the president. And so I don't have to do executive orders. The things I would do is, in the first 100 days, identify manufacturing sectors of key national importance and develop a 10-year plan to start embargoing key products from China and other countries to encourage U.S. production. And a lot of people would lose their minds over those last two bullets. But honestly, they don't have a better idea. This is how you have to do it, given the world we live in. In the first 2 years, after the first 100 days, I would try to push to modify the corporate tax code. Before I do that, let me show you some manufacturing sectors of key national importance. Things like personal electronics, electronic components, medical equipment, military equipment. These are all things that, if we had an emergency and needed them, we do not want to have to rely on overseas sources for these kinds of things. So these would all be things that we would try to start embargoing and developing the U.S. manufacturing base. Back to my policy initiatives: modify the corporate tax rate, and then in the second 2 years, identify and provide capital loans to selected industries that need additional assistance to maintain a U.S. national capability. I showed you this previously, the corporate federal tax rate. It would basically give incentives to companies to hire American, build in America, and provide a living wage. And I will guarantee you nobody in Washington wants to do this, because they don't want to incentivize companies to do the right thing, because they benefit from companies doing the wrong thing. And that's it. In a quick nutshell, that's it. Next time I'll talk about healthcare. And if I haven't said this before, I'm an independent. I'm not voting for Democrats and Republicans anymore, and I don't think you should either. Thanks.